Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for a big one. We're exploring the absolute seismic shift that's happening right now,
Hmm,
where technology is fundamentally challenging what we even mean when we say intelligence.
it really is.
We've got a stack of fascinating sources here, and they all seem to circle one fundamental, maybe slightly terrifying question.
Which is?
If knowledge becomes instantly accessible, if a machine can give you the answer faster than you can even ask the question, what is the value of human intelligence? Or maybe more importantly, human effort.
That is the core tension, and it's a profound one. Our mission in this deep dive is to synthesize this material so you can look past the headlines, the job loss or the technological miracle stuff,
Right.
and instead really understand the mechanics of adaptation. We're going to examine this whole transformation through the lens of one of its chief architects.
And see how this new AI era is rewriting, well, everything. Both the definition of intellect and the very structure of our working lives.
And
One of our sources uses this really powerful analogy to frame it. It says that intelligence, or at least knowledge, is becoming like access to tap water
Hmm,
or electricity.
you just flip a switch.
You just flip a switch or turn a faucet. It's just
Yeah.
there. And if that access is cheap and everywhere, the scarcity is gone.
And if knowledge isn't scarce, what are you paying for? That's the question.
Precisely.
This shift demands a total reevaluation of value, and humans have been trying to define that value for a very long time. Our sources start with a historical perspective from Confucius, who argued, better a flawed diamond than a pebble.
So inherent unique quality, even if it's imperfect, is better than just common uniformity.
Right. It's about substance. But then you get this completely contrasting view, one that feels much more relevant to our hyper-accelerated era.
From Stephen Hawking.
From theoretical physicist
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking, yeah. He said, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change.
Okay, and if we accept Hawking's definition, then the most critical skill right now isn't what you know.
No. It's how quickly and effectively you can integrate these massive accelerating changes that AI is bringing. We have to adapt our skills, our careers, maybe our whole philosophy of work.
So let's unpack that adaptation by looking at a leader who really embodies this shift, someone who controls the literal infrastructure of this whole AI revolution.
Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA.
Exactly. Our research points to his personal story as being foundational to his success. I mean, he's one of the oldest tech CEOs still actively leading.
And his backstory is incredible. An immigrant who learned English at age 7, taught by his mother, who didn't even speak English herself.
That's incredible adaptive intelligence right from the start. It fits Hawking's definition perfectly.
It absolutely sets the stage for understanding his drive. And to grasp why his work philosophy matters so much, you have to understand the scale of his success.
The scale is almost unimaginable.
Huang co-founded NVIDIA way back in 1993. So the company is, 32 years old now? But it's the sheer acceleration of its value during this AI boom that is just staggering.
Okay, give me some context here because the numbers are astronomical.
Well, in October 2025, NVIDIA reached a market capitalization of over $5 trillion.
$5 trillion.
$5 trillion. To put that in perspective for you, that is larger than the entire GDP of many major industrialized nations.
And this isn't just hype, it's based on a real technical necessity.
It is. The valuation comes down to what their product, the GPU or graphics processing unit, actually does.
We hear about GPUs all the time, but why are they so essential for AI training? Why not the normal CPUs in our computers?
Okay, so a standard CPU is brilliant at serial processing, doing one complex task very, very quickly. But training an AI model requires massive parallel processing.
Doing millions of simple things all at once.
Exactly. Millions of calculations simultaneously. And that's what GPUs were originally designed for, handling the millions of pixels and calculations for, complex video game graphics.
So it was a happy accident.
A very happy accident. It turned out the architecture for rendering realistic graphics is the exact same architecture you need for training deep learning models.
So the company that used to sell graphics cards to gamers now controls the entire backbone of the AI industry.
Pretty much. The research shows NVIDIA controls more than 80% of the market for these processing units, and their chips power over 75% of the world's supercomputers. They are the essential infrastructure provider.
That context makes his personal approach to work completely fascinating. Our sources call it balance and imbalance. I mean, when you're responsible for the infrastructure powering global tech evolution, how do you even think about work-life balance? Yeah. Frankly, when you read about his schedule, it sounds a lot less like balance and a lot more like burnout.
And that's the critical question, right? Is the source material just romanticizing burnout, or is it describing something else entirely? Huang's approach is to make work his passion.
A continuous problem-solving activity.
That consumes nearly all his waking hours 7 days a week.
We're talking 14-hour days here. Something like 5 a.m. to 9:30 p.m.
Right.
For this Stanford-trained electrical engineer, there's almost no line between work and life.
And the insight from the sources is that this kind of commitment only works when the work itself is continuous strategizing and dreaming. The highest value, creative task. It's not about answering emails.
It's about defining the frontier.
Exactly. The old 9-to-5 model was based on industrial labor, where input equaled output. When you are pioneering global infrastructure, the focus is entirely on leverage, on vision, and sustained, intense problem solving.
Okay, so if that's what it takes to build the machine, what does the machine itself do to the rest of us? This brings us to that idea of the two-edged sword of AI.
Yeah, the articles we analyzed caution really strongly about this. AI is a two-edged sword, a blessing for productivity for sure, but it carries this sort of silent apocalyptic curse if it's used improperly.
And the immediate danger isn't necessarily mass job destruction, but something more subtle, a decline in our own cognitive capability.
The sources offer a very stark warning here. If you're just using AI to cut and paste answers, or to, mimic smarts without doing the underlying analysis yourself, it will make you dumber and dumber without realizing it.
So you start relying on the algorithm to fill in the gaps.
And eventually your own critical thinking muscles just atrophy.
It's like relying on GPS so much you forget how to read a map.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the destination, sure, but you lose the understanding of the city itself.
That's a perfect analogy, and this is reflected in the job debate. We're seeing some studies that show hiring for entry-level graduates has actually dropped.
So AI is automating those repetitive, administrative, and clerical roles.
That's the initial analysis, yes.
But wait, that sounds like the doom and gloom scenario that the optimists always try to dismiss. Is it that simple? AI just takes all the entry-level jobs.
Not at all. And that's the tension. The optimistic view, which is also strongly supported in our sources, is that the total number of jobs might not drop. It just shifts.
It shifts up the value chain.
Exactly. AI eliminates tasks, not necessarily roles. New jobs are being created in AI development, data governance, ethics, human-AI collaboration.
So we move from summarizing documents to what? Jobs focused on interpreting that data and making sure the AI is behaving correctly.
And that shift requires some serious upskilling. Workers need critical thinking, obviously, but also something called prompt engineering.
That's a term that gets thrown around a lot. For the learner listening, what is prompt engineering, really?
Well, think of it as moving from just basic searching to strategic instruction. It's the art of structuring your questions to get the most out of the machine.
So instead of typing, "Tell me about AI."
Right. You need the literacy to type, act as an expert historian, analyze these 5 conflicting viewpoints, and synthesize a 2-page executive summary focusing only on the economic impact for the American market, using a skeptical but professional tone.
Wow, okay, so it requires high-level thinking to get a high-level result.
That's the key distinction. Human value shifts entirely. If AI handles the content creation, we humans are left with the complex, high-stakes decisions about how that content gets used.
So that's the synthesis. AI's biggest role will be to shift our focus from sheer creation to curation and complex problem solving.
We become the final arbiters of quality, direction, and strategy. But to really see how this plays out in the real world, we need to look at this really unexpected case study that Huang himself shared.
This is the aha moment for me. The thing that completely reframes the whole idea of automation leading to more leisure time. It's from a talk he gave at the University of Cambridge about the field of radiology.
Yes. His initial prediction years ago was that radiology was going to be the first industry completely destroyed by AI.
And it seemed logical. AI could analyze medical images, spot anomalies,
and make faster, more accurate diagnoses than a human could. It looked like pure substitution.
So what happened? Because that defies every headline we've read.
The reality diverged dramatically from the prediction. Today, almost every single radiologist uses AI for diagnostic assistance. And yet,
the number of radiologists being hired has actually increased.
Automation didn't lead to job loss, it led to job expansion.
But how? Why? If the machine handles the basic analysis, why did they need more humans?
Because AI handles the basic stuff very, very quickly. This removed a massive workflow bottleneck. Before AI, human radiologists spent a huge amount of their time just screening straightforward cases.
They had limited bandwidth.
Exactly, which meant many cases went undiagnosed or were only diagnosed superficially because the doctors just ran out of time.
So AI didn't replace the doctor. It replaced the waiting list. It freed up the doctor's most valuable resource, focused attention.
Precisely, it unlocked human capacity. The sources suggest that the depth and the number of cases radiologists are dealing with now are far more interesting, more complex, and higher value. They're focusing on the difficult diagnoses, the ambiguous shadows, the rare diseases that require human judgment.
It's a perfect example of complementarity, where AI elevates human work instead of substitution, where it just replaces it.
It is.
This radiology story illustrates a broader principle we see in the sources, something we could call the Bezier hypothesis. And it's a slightly depressing thought that efficiency doesn't give us freedom, it just expands our to-do list.
It's the nature of human ambition, isn't it? I mean, look at history. When computers and email came along, people promised the paperless office and 4-day work weeks.
Right. What happened?
We just became accessible 24/7 and started processing 10 times the amount of information.
So if a task that took you a week now takes a second, our natural inclination isn't to take a vacation.
No, it's to take on 30 more tasks. That's the critical mechanism. When a bottleneck is removed, we find ourselves on the critical path more often. We pursue more ideas. We discover new problems that need solving. We don't shrink the scope of work. We perpetually expand it.
The goal isn't just efficiency then. It's unlocking the time to work on things that are more meaningful.
And that brings us right back to the core question. What is the most meaningful human work in an age of intelligent machines?
And the sources seem to focus on what they call poorly defined work.
Poorly defined work. This is the discovery work, the creativity work, the original out-of-the-box creation that doesn't follow an existing pattern.
So AI can solve problems that are, as you said, fairly easy to describe well. If you can write a clear 50-step prompt, the AI can deliver. That's its superpower.
But that, crucially, frees humanity to work on the things that are very difficult to describe. We're talking about defining the next great scientific question, or creating an art form that's never existed, or solving complex geopolitical problems where the variables are inherently ambiguous.
This feels like the critical path for anyone listening. If AI is the new tap water for knowledge, your value doesn't come from mastering easily defined tasks.
Not anymore.
The sources suggest the hope is in humanity's unique capacity to grapple with ambiguity and define new frontiers. We'll always find new things to do, new problems to solve.
The critical path to avoid being made redundant, to avoid being ignored, is to focus relentlessly on those uniquely human skills, the ones that extend beyond the reach of any algorithm. It's about combining that hard-earned technical literacy with the soft skills that defy modeling.
Like complex pattern recognition, emotional intelligence.
And the ability to ask a truly novel question.
This has been a fascinating journey. We started with the concern that intelligence might become cheap, like tap water, and ended up with the surprising reality of the radiology job market, where efficiency actually led to job expansion. So our sources point toward a mandatory proactive adaptation. The goal of all this new efficiency isn't leisure, it's freedom. The freedom to engage in their meaningful, poorly defined work. That's where we create the most value.
And as you think about your own path forward, your own adaptation strategy, you should ask yourself that one final provocative question. What are the specific, uniquely human skills you possess? That blend of adaptation, critical thinking, and that poorly defined curiosity that an algorithm could never, ever replicate.
Because that is the space where the greatest value and the greatest success will be found in this new era.
Absolutely.
We'll leave you with this compelling, motivating advice from the source material. It's a necessary mantra for facing this kind of massive disruption. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then you win. That is your adaptation path for the age of AI.